Don't you wish you could just hit pause on life sometimes? To really slow things down and take a look around? This would be especially helpful for an artist who seeks to understand the human body to become a student of weight, motion, and dynamism. Today we're going to walk and talk you through drawing better poses now. After you learn these things, you'll be able to draw more confident poses with practical principles even from a beginner level. Half of the battle is knowledge, and the other half will be execution. We're going to cover a lot of ground in a short period of time, so let's get started. Now, one of the big things you really want to consider is the line of action. So if I just draw a sphere here, and then I shoot out a line that's S-shaped in some format, and I do that a couple different times, it sort of looks like something that we're not going to mention. But you know what it actually is the skull and the spine. So you can go ahead and draw the shoulder girdle and the pelvic girdle as well. So these are basically just ways of showing that the curve of the body or the spine is going to dictate the pose largely. Then you can go ahead and drop in some quick shapes connecting those things. As you can see here, it doesn't have to be perfect. And then we can start to shoot out where our arms or our legs are going to go. So for example, I could have one leg go out here, and then I know the knee is here, and shoot that downward and put the foot. And then we can do that after we add a little more form and dimension and solidity with the other leg. For example, having it go backwards, because you notice that my line of action is sort of shooting down and out, and I continue that line, I keep that energy. And in this case, I'm going to have it going behind this figure, which is going to be in front. So now you can already see that this energy is being kept as I'm laying in this mannequin for the pose, and then it's just about deciding where the limbs are going to go, in this case the arms. So I'll just go ahead and kind of refine my shape here a little bit, and I'll choose a direction for the arms, much like I did for the legs. So in this case we have these nice elbow bends, and that is going to take me into this sort of pose or posture, which might seem a little goofy, obviously, because it's so quick. It was done very fast, and it's very imperfect, but the thing is this is just the process, and I'm showing you how you can do a lot of these very quickly. So for example, we might have another pose like this, and in this case, we want to think about foreshortening and balance. So I'm going to push this leg behind, and I'm going to draw a little ball for the foot and just a little foot shape there, and kind of cheat my way into a calf muscle or the lower part of the leg. And then you can have it sort of hyperextended out, and you can have it going back, but we're going to need something to keep this pose in balance, because otherwise, without any arm placement, this is going to be a pose that falls over, and we don't want that. So we can just have two arms going down like this. And this is so second nature to me because I've done so much figure drawing and so many gesture drawings that I can just, make a head, shoot off a line of action, and figure out where my pose is going to be after that, because it's so simple. Now, obviously you have to keep in mind things like your proportions and your anatomy, and you have to learn how to construct a figure as well, and you have to think about, oh, how am I going to keep this balanced? How am I going to make sure that it doesn't look like it's falling over, or it looks like it's grounded on a ground plane? And that is actually a great series of questions, and I will cover that now. So in this case, we think about the ground plane as just being a nice little X there, like a treasure chest, or a treasure map rather, where X marks the spot. And we can even go ahead, if we want, and have some diagonal lines that showcase the actual plane or square that the figure would stand on. After which, we can go with a more basic and symmetrical pose by having that head drawn in and then giving just a slight curve to the spine. Just something like that. Very easy, just nice little soft S, as opposed to like a crazy S, which is a lot more action and dynamism. So we're just having a soft S. We're going to do the pelvic and the shoulder girdle again. This is the shoulder girdle, this is the pelvic girdle, and then we're going to connect those 2 points, stopping at where the rib cage approximately would be, going into the lower torso. And then again, we can just have some arms on the side. The elbows, if the arms are hanging down, are about at the bottom of the ribs, so we'll just keep that there. And again, this is just very gestural. I'm not trying to impress you with how great I draw. I have other examples of that in the video itself, but this is just the preamble so I can talk more about it later so you know what I'm actually talking about. And now I'm just going in and I can go ahead and have the legs landing on this ground plane. You know, the legs are soft S's as well. It's not straight down. So that is something that will improve your poses right away, is just ensuring that there's a little bit of an S curve to your legs too, because it looks more natural. Everything looks more natural if it's a little bit of an S or a C. We don't have a lot of perfectly straight action almost anywhere in nature. It's a very human thing. For example, you can see that this looks a little hyperextended because I just had a straight line coming down as opposed to more of a curved one. So we can get rid of those arms. Like I said, we get rid of stuff quick if it's not working, and we just bend it a little. And that way we have a much more natural looking pose, and our figure looks a lot more solid and easy to draw over with detail and clothes and all of that. So that is basically how you construct a figure. I go way, way, way more in depth in my character drawing course and in the beginner drawing course because figures are one of my specialties, but that is the essence of it, so you'll know what I'm talking about as we work our way through these more, shall we say, flashy demos in the rest of the video. All right, onto our flashier demos. Now I want you to think about what I just showed you with the demonstration earlier, where we have a torso or a core, whatever you want to call it, and the limbs are just extruding off of that. Now what you want to do with those limbs in order to amplify your poses is to think about two things. You think about the character and you think about the design of the pose. So how is the pose showing what the character is feeling? How is the pose balancing that character on the ground plane? And in this instance, you can see that I had a leg that was sort of shooting off weird, but we ended up going with a kneeling pose in that instance. So I also didn't even draw the legs until I was done with the arms. So you can take these ideas of starting with the line of action and the core, and you can do the arms after that, you can do the legs, you can switch up the permutation, because you know what? As long as you have the basics and you have these at the forefront of your mind as far as what kind of pose you're going to create, it's okay to just keep erasing and redrawing. Like in this case, I know I wanted something that felt more like a footballer or some sort of cricket player, and he's just a bigger guy and we're seeing him from below. So we're below this figure and he is big, he's imposing, and that's showcasing a way to make your poses better automatically is using a little bit of perspective to get your audience to feel like they're smaller than the figure who is just more dominant in the picture plane. You also notice the dynamism here. It's a much better running pose than the one I did for the quick little demo. Another thing you have to think about with poses, in addition to the balance and the weight and the angles of the limbs, is the foreshortening. So that knee is definitely coming at the viewer. And you see I just have it represented by a simple circle. So you mannequinize the different parts of your pose by simplifying them as though it were an action figure. And then you use that simplification to figure out things like how to make something appear like it's coming toward the viewer, or how to make something appear like it's going away from the viewer. And in this instance, we have a head and a torso and then an arm and a shield. I really, really love working with the figure, and I love figuring out poses that are dynamic. And the best way to do that is just to get a lot of gesture drawing practice in and a lot of figure drawing practice. And then you mix those two things together and you start thinking about how the gestural poses and the constructive figure drawing are going to take your art to the next level. And that is all I have for you today. Feel free to like, share, subscribe. Here's the finished piece from that particular sort of footballer dude where he has a bunch of ghosts and stuff. It was actually based on an ice cream flavor. Weird story. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you can share, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy drawing.